Oh dear. Oh boy. A clickbaity title and a clickbaity thumbnail. What could it mean, folks? What does he mean by this? Been on my mind for a while. I've talked about it with streamers, with friends, all varying types, regular Joe Schmoes, high-level community Ironman. Even touched on it a little bit on the Sebe podcast. But there's a problem, and it's been plaguing my mind for a little bit. And it's the diversity inside of RuneScape. Now, I need to clarify quickly here before I wind up as an irate Reddit post. In standard MMOs, you level your character to max level, and then you go, I want to PvP or I want to PvE. Or I guess in RuneScape, for whatever reason, we call it PvM. And then you gear your character for those things, and that's about it. Due to RuneScape's unique skill system and leveling system and just how the game functions, we have people who are like 1500 total level. We have Ironmen of all different shapes and sizes, hardcore Ironmen, ultimate Ironmen, snowflake Ironmen. We have mains, we have middle-aged maxers, we have high-level mains or high-level community, I suppose. We got speedrunners, skillers, and of course PKers. And that's just the shit that I came up with in 30 seconds when writing that list there that I just read. I'm sure I'm missing some, but I mean, just that list alone dwarfs I want to PvP at the end of the game, or I want to PvE at the end of the game. We got a lot of different fuckers here, all needing a lot of different things. And so I want to dive into this and like the kind of consequences of it that I see. But we need to cover two things first, as I tend to do. One, mean comments hurt my feelers. So in an attempt to keep things civil, let me say this. I'm not proposing any opinions, solutions, calls to actions, any of that shit. I just want to hear your guys' thoughts, because I think it's something that we all are kind of aware of but don't really talk about a whole lot. And at the end of the day, this is a 20-year-old video game. I'm not going to go dying on any hills. I just think it's really interesting that out of all the game companies in the world, Jagex finds themselves in this particularly unique situation. And two, this is obviously all conjecture. The US Census does not poll the opinions of the US population, it polls the opinion of people who actually take the fucking census. Just like the opinions of people who play this game is not reflected properly through content creators or Redditors or wherever else you get your information. I would love nothing more than for Jagex to, like, at the end of the year, give us a massive fucking Excel or CSV of just like all the data on their player base, demographics and everything. Like how many people are high level, how many people have like max capes, how many people have Infernal capes, how many people are Ironmen, hardcore Ironmen, group Ironmen, and then how many of them, like, how long are their membership stints, you know? Do they play for like 2 months and give up, or do they like, are they buying a year worth of membership at a time? Like, I want to know like percentages of people, but we don't have that, you know? And as much as I'd like that, we don't. And so again, a lot of this is going to be conjecture. It's just going to be gatherings of opinions, and kind of how I've felt over the past 10 years playing this game. So, since we can't find anything concrete, we're just gonna make shit up on the internet.
What are you doing? I'm posting false information on the web. Why? It's fun.
Okay, but for real, why should we care that the game has so many groups? Well, from a development standpoint, and this is what I think most people care about, is it's limited resources, right? Like most things, game development is zero sum, right? Even with like dedicated JMods who are like, I'm PvP only or I'm PVM only, you still have the taking away of one developer from a project to another. And that takes away or slows down the process of other projects. And as a consequence of this, certain projects need to take priority. And then when those projects take priority and other projects get pushed by the wayside, you see comments like, oh, the high-level community does not get enough stuff. Or this is, you know, an Iron Man only update. Or why are we still making PvP updates? You know, I don't want to be a loot pinata. Why are we adding stuff to this? Why are we adding content that only pertains to 5% of the player base? Why are we doing this, this, and this? Especially when you consider that not all of these groups overlap. Some people are PK only, and so the only time they ever see an update is that one PvP update a year, you know? Or the people who like high-level community stuff. It's like, well, we got a new high-level boss, kind of figured it out, I'll be back in 2 years. And obviously, a lot of people overlap, especially when you play a main, you know, you do a lot of different stuff. However, not all of these groups overlap, and obviously everyone has their favorites of what to do, and so you wind up with this, like, really weird situation where even though the game is updated every week, or you see new things rolling out maybe once a month, it's not always for you. And you're just like, well, maybe next month, or maybe next year, or whatever. And so the question that befalls Jagex, and I'm certainly glad I don't have to fucking deal with, is where do you strike the balance? How do you make all these groups of people happy all at once? Short answer, you fucking don't. But if we're looking at what we're doing right now, I do not think it is a far leap. Again, this is conjecture, but I don't think it's a far leap to say that most of the updates over the past couple of years have been heavily focused on the mid-game. Scurious, Blood Moons, Huey, Amoxliatl, all different mid-level bosses. You got mini-game reworks, early game skill adjustments, etc. All this shit, right? So we step back and we go, why? Why the mid-game? Why the quote Iron Man updates, which not even necessarily Iron Man updates, it's just focusing on one part. How many fucking Iron Men are maxed or at the high level already, you know? Mid-level doesn't mean Iron Man, it just means mid-level. So why the mid-game? It's not for mains, obviously. It's not for the high-level community. It's certainly not for fucking PKers. Well, and again, conjecture, this is just talking, I'm gonna say that a lot, okay? This entire fucking video is conjecture. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna throw numbers out there. We're gonna make shit up. We're gonna say Jagex, pretty please, if there's a JMod watching, release some data. I want to know. I'm sure I'm not the only one who wants to know. But, you know, you ask around, maybe 5% are like casual end game, like close to 2277, not quite up there, but definitely maxed combat cloggers end game, you know, probably like 5%. PKers easily like 5% of the community, not getting much higher than that. Iron Men, again, probably similar to mains, probably even a little less if we're being honest. I'll call it an even 5%. High level community, I mean, I'd love to believe there's a lot of them, but when we consider high level community, it's probably less than 5% as well. We're sitting around like 70 to 80% of people who are not falling into any of those groups. And so we ask ourselves, who the fuck is playing this game? Who's the main player of this game? And it pains me to say this out loud, but it's the guy who comes back once a month, every year, who has like 1,000 total level and comes back because they get that wave of nostalgia. Or the guy who goes through the 2-month RuneScape period with his buddies. They're like, dude, this is the month. We're gonna max. We're gonna get like we're gonna get our mega rares and stuff, and they burn out after 2 months. You know, those guys. I think when people consume a lot of content creators, a lot of Reddit, and a lot of Twitch streamers, all that shit, their idea of what the player base is like tends to skew. And I bet you dimes the fucking donuts if we actually got numbers back. Most of the people who play this damn game, not above 1,500 total level. Maybe, I'll be generous, not above 2K for sure. The people playing are not the ones who participate in polls. They don't give a fuck. They're not the ones who watch content creators. They don't care about you or me. And they certainly do not post on Reddit. They drop $11, maybe 25 every couple of months to play for a little bit, and then they're done. So then the conundrum in my mind becomes an ethical versus a pragmatic one. And let me say this, first and foremost, Jagex is a business. I'm not sure if those of you who are alive currently are familiar with big businesses, but they tend to value pragmatism over ethics. What's the statistic? 10 times out of 10. Doing what feels good tends to not make a lot of money. If you want to continue to exist as a business, you need to do what makes money. So with that stated, the people who show up once a month don't give a fuck about the game the way you do. PKers want PK updates because they want the PK scene to stay alive. They care about it. The HLC puts countless hours into min-maxing late game shit because they care about the longevity of content and the ability to squeeze every drop of efficiency out of it, I suppose. Iron Men care deeply about the mechanics of the game and self-sufficiency and optimization without a player-driven market. The 80% of the player base that buys a subscription for a couple of months at a time do not give a fuck about any of that shit. Side tangent, but I promise it matters. World of Warcraft a few years ago introduced an in-game shop. I can't remember what expansion it was, but when it showed up, people were furious. You know, the whole microtransactions in a game where I pay for expansions and a monthly fee, how dare they? And it seemed like the community at large hated it, right? All the forums, all the YouTube videos, all of the streamers, everything. They were like, fuck microtransactions. And years went on, and more cosmetics got added, and then eventually leveling boosted, and basically purchasable characters and mounts and all this shit got added to this in-game shop, and they continued to get more and more angry. Why do they keep doing this shit? Everyone hates it. And then when people would say this to me, I'd say it's because people keep buying it, dumbass. If there was not a financial incentive to do this shit, they would not have continued doing it. It would have been scrapped week 1. PKers and mains and Iron Men will continue to have consistent subscriptions that will likely probably not lapse until the game itself dies, right? The people who are truly invested in this game, who truly care about it, truly care about the longevity, are always going to be paying that money. But the 80% of people who come back on a whim, regardless of the updates that's pushed, they don't read the fucking news posts, they don't care. That's where the money's at. And like I said, they're all like 1,000 to 2,000 total level, so middle of the road, middle game content. The more shit that you shove in there, the more likely they are to stay and be engaged and have fun, reduce the slog of RuneScape, and maybe they turn that 1 month stay at RuneScape into a 2 month, or into a 3 month, or into a 4 month, or whatever. Businesses, even ones whose product is artistic in nature, like games, are entities, and these entities can only survive and thrive if they continue to make money. It's all profit driven. Hate to say that, but it's the way it goes. Now let me state, I'm not upset about it. I think anyone who treats Jagex more than what it is, which is a business, is bound to be disappointed at some point. But I think it's an interesting balancing game that they're going to have to do forever. Do they put out content for the niche group who actually cares about the game, the Ironman, the BKers, the high-level community, whatever? Or do they make content that casts a wide net and appeals to the average Joe returning, who will inevitably put the game down in a month or two and not give a shit about what is actually added to the game? I don't know. I'm probably never going to know. This was all conjecture after all. I don't have numbers to verify any of these claims, and it's something that's just been on my mind, and I can't wait to hear all of your opinions. Am I spot on? Am I off base? A raving lunatic on the precipice of psychosis? Please let me know. And also tell me, have you been waiting for updates for ages? Are you part of the high-level community who's like, no updates? Do you give a shit? Or like PKers? I don't PK. Tell me what you think. I am truly, genuinely curious. And in the off chance that there's JMods listening, I am sure I am not the only one who would appreciate a dump of player demographics and data at the year's end. All right. Bye-bye.